Here's how to get the biggest orders on DoorDash and Uber Eats. What's up guys, my name is Blake Moore. Welcome to More Driven. On this channel, I talk all things gig work, primarily DoorDash, Uber Eats, Lyft, and Instacart. And I give you guys my 6 years of experience, so hopefully you can make as much money as possible. In this video, I'm going to be going over the 10 ways that you can get the most massive orders on DoorDash and Uber Eats because they kind of go hand in hand. Some of these will just be in regards to DoorDash, but a lot of them apply to both because they're both food delivery. So if you find this helpful or informational, then make sure you subscribe and let's get into things. The first thing, which I've tested out a lot of times, is you can be a top dasher. Now, I don't have the platinum tiers dasher, but I assume it works basically the same as top dasher. So what I have noticed in all of my testing is that you will get slightly bigger and slightly more frequent high pay orders when you're in this tier or when you're a top dasher. But I wouldn't really rely on that if you're just trying to get the biggest orders possible, because in order to hit that, you have to have 70% acceptance rate, which means you're going to be having to take a lot of bad orders along with them. So while it will help you get more high paying orders, I don't really recommend this to be your primary strategy if you're trying to get the biggest orders possible. Now, as far as Uber Eats goes, the acceptance rate doesn't even matter. So you can just disregard that first one in regards to Uber Eats. The next thing, which is a tactical thing you can do, is park in the parking lots of the most expensive restaurants that are on the platform. So figure out what restaurants those are in your area, and just at the beginning of your shift, go and park and wait there. And you should see the highest orders if you do that. But in order to avoid taking the bad orders that might come along if you're sitting there and parked, then you have to do this next tip, which is you have to cherry pick and multi-app. Basically, if you do this, you can just set whatever price range you want for your minimum payout that you're willing to accept, or your minimum dollar per mile ratio that you're willing to accept. If you go and park in the most expensive restaurants in your area and you're cherry picking while also using DoorDash and Uber Eats, and even like Grubhub or any other app you want to pair, then you essentially control your own destiny, and it's just a matter of how long you're willing to wait to see massive payouts. The next thing, which I would highly recommend if you're going to use that cherry pick multi-app expensive restaurant method that I just referenced, is to make sure you're not relying on DoorDash and Uber Eats to pay your bills. And that is because you don't know how long you're going to have to wait in order to get these really high paying orders. So it's best to just have this as side income, and then you don't really have to worry about things because you could wait an entire 30, 45 minutes in a parking lot for the best possible orders, and you don't have to worry about that consistent money making because this is just side income. Maybe you're using it to invest or whatever it is you're using it for. But if you're relying on DoorDash and Uber Eats to pay your bills, then it's going to be hard to cherry pick because maybe you go an hour and a half without making any money, and then that's just not going to lead to bill paying money. The next thing, which definitely applies to both DoorDash and Uber Eats, but I have seen this more on Uber Eats, and that would be to take as many shop and pay orders as possible. Now, with shop and pay orders, the more you take, the more you will receive, and the better shop and pay orders you'll get. So the biggest orders that I've ever seen on Uber Eats specifically are the shop and pay orders. I mean, I've had ones that reach $64 for not that many items, and they take me like an hour to get done. And so the more of these that you take, the better payouts that you will see from them and the more you will get. And that goes for both platforms, DoorDash and Uber Eats. The next thing only applies to DoorDash, but if you can get in the DoorDash catering program, then I would highly recommend you do that. Unfortunately, I've never been able to get on in the DoorDash catering program. It's just always too full. And so I don't have any personal experience doing this, but I know there are a ton of people that make a crap ton from these catering orders. Now, the next thing you can switch on really easily, and this one just goes for the DoorDash app, but if you switch on cash on delivery, almost every single time I take a cash on delivery order, it ends up being a really high paying tip, whether it's $5 or whether it's $20 I've seen on these cash on delivery orders. So those will give you access to some really high payouts. And honestly, I've only ever had one cash on delivery order not tip me really well. And another bonus with that is that a lot of people don't have their cash on delivery on because they either don't like taking them or they just don't really know how it works. And so you kind of get the priority in regards to those cash on delivery orders. And so I think it's well worth it to turn it on. The next thing you can do to get the biggest orders is to dash in high income areas. Now, from my personal experience and from the area that I DoorDash in, it's a massive difference if you are dashing in a high income area. So for those of you who don't know Utah very well, or you don't DoorDash in Utah, then you won't know exactly what I'm talking about, but you probably have similarities in your own area. So the area that I primarily dash in, I believe the average income, the average household income is $120,000, right around there. But if I go south about 25 miles to the Orem Provo area, it's a big college town, and you almost never see orders above like $7. I mean, it's just super rare, and you rarely ever see anyone tip like above $5. But in the area I normally dash in, you do see orders pretty consistently that are above $10, maybe even $14 stack orders, things like that. So it does make a difference. From my personal experience, that's what I've noticed. So if you have to drive a little bit of ways to get into a high income area, then I would recommend it if you're trying to get the biggest orders. The next thing is to know when to go out and DoorDash. It is very important to go out during the busiest times of the day, of the week, of the year, because if you're going during off times, then people probably aren't ordering as much food, and so they're less likely to tip a high amount. And if you need help figuring out when the best times to go out in your area are, you can use the tool Solo. They make it super easy. If you sign up for one of their subscription plans and get that pay guarantee feature, it shows you when the busiest hours are to go out and DoorDash. So I'll leave it down below in the description if you want to check out the app and get a free trial plus a $10 bonus. But that is one way if you don't have much experience with DoorDashing and you're maybe a new DoorDash driver or even Uber Eats. It'll show you which one is busier, DoorDash or Uber Eats, and all sorts of stuff. So it's just a great tool if you want to check it out. But once you go out and DoorDash and do Uber Eats a lot in your area, then you're going to know what the best times are. And for me, that is dinner time. It's weekends, weekend dinner times to be specific, and also holidays. These are where you're going to see the most massive orders that are out there. In fact, on the 4th of July, just a couple days ago, I saw many high-paying Uber Eats orders. I didn't do any DoorDash, but for Uber Eats, I saw some really high payouts. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to find these big orders. And then the last thing, which kind of goes along with the last thing that I just talked about, is knowing your area. The more hours you put in, the easier it's going to be to find these high-paying orders. And that's just because you're going to know what restaurants are consistently giving you high orders. And then also you're going to know those peak times of day. You're also going to know the specific areas. You're also going to know the specific neighborhoods that pay better, like just all sorts of things. The more hours you put in, the better you know your area, the easier it's going to be to consistently find these high-paying orders because they're out there. And the more experienced drivers are probably taking them. The people who know where to cherry pick are probably taking them. And so if you can become one of those people who have the experience, who know where to find these, then you're going to be the one getting and accepting these really massive big orders. So in my opinion, it's just a matter of skill and knowing what programs to be a part of, what things to have on, what settings to have on, what filters to have on, where to go, what restaurants, just all sorts of things that factor into how to get the biggest orders. And once you learn all of those things, then you can be the one getting the highest orders possible. And so that is why that last tip is to just know your area, put in the reps, put in the hours, and track things. Honestly, the more you track, the easier it's going to be to notice patterns and to search out those high-paying orders. So anyways, there you guys have it. Hopefully you learned something from this video and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, again, make sure you subscribe. I got a lot of great stuff going on. And if you can notice right here on the whiteboard, it says join the More Driven community. If you want to check out that community, the link for it will be down below in the description. I've got contests going on. I got people I'm going to have in my videos from that community and just all sorts of stuff. So if you want to check it out, it's down below in the description as well as the Solo app. And I'll see you guys in the next video.